is the lower the floor of fire, the worse the situation. Everybody get that? Right? Because, you know, when you have a top floor fire, particularly if the top floor fire has gotten into the attic, it can look very impressive, right? But ultimately, what's going to happen? We're going to burn the roof off, okay? But when you have a lower floor fire in the building, what now, how has that changed? Every floor above is an exposure, right? And when you talk about a multifamily dwelling that has lots of apartments and lots of people in it, that makes the situation exponentially worse, right? So if we look at the back of this apartment building here, right, we already have fire below the top floor, right? But imagine how much worse it would be if we had fire on the bottom floor, right? Because fire goes up and out. So you have to really think about that from a resource perspective, and we'll talk about that more tomorrow for the incident commanders. But even with my resource package being as heavy as it is, we would look at a good working fire below the top floor is probably a multiple alarm on arrival. Right? And if we're looking at the numbers that we're looking at here and we're seeing, I don't really even have enough to handle 1 or 2 floors of fire in a house. If I have fire below the top floor in a multifamily, I would lean heavily towards considering an extra alarm on arrival just because of the amount of areas you're going to need to cover and the amount of people involved. Does that make sense? Yes. Right? So another kind of thing from a size up perspective is figuring out how many apartments are there on each floor. This is going to vary with different styles of apartments, but there's a big difference between having 2 apartments on the floor and having 10 apartments off of each floor. You get what I'm saying? That's going to vary between garden apartments and apartment buildings as to how many there can be, but that's going to be something we're trying to figure out during our size up, right? So if we look at this building over here, we have an apartment building that shares breezeways with attached apartment buildings, right? So in this building here, how many apartments per floor do you think you have? 2, right? So you basically have a front apartment and a back apartment on each side of this stairwell, right? So the apartments over here are really part of this of this building, but 2 apartments per floor over here, another breezeway with 2 apartments per floor there. And that kind of can give you an idea of how many things you're dealing with. What you got to kind of think about when you're dealing with a multifamily dwelling is it's a bunch of single-family dwellings mushed together, right? That's what an apartment is. Apartment is a little house, isn't it? Right? People do the same things in there that they do in a big house, right? So that getting an idea of how many little houses we're dealing with is an important place to start.